Hey everyone, ready to dive into something kind of mind-bending.
I think so. Always up for a challenge. What do we have today?
Today, we're talking about making AI forget.
Forget. Like just how we forget things sometimes?
Not exactly. We're talking about actually erasing information from an AI's knowledge, like totally gone.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, that's a whole different ball game. That's going to be incredibly complex.
It is, and it's an area of research that's moving crazy fast.
So, where do we even start with something like this? What's the current state of making an AI unlearn something?
Well, researchers are developing some pretty cutting-edge methods, and one of the most interesting ones is called Erasure of Language Memory, ELM for short.
Erasure of Language Memory. ELM. Okay, I'm intrigued. How does ELM work? Is it like just hitting delete on a file in the AI's brain or something?
It's a good way to think about it, but it's way more precise than just deleting a file.
Oh.
It actually identifies the specific values within the AI system that are tied to the information they're targeting for removal.
So it's more like laser surgery for the AI's brain, precisely removing just the unwanted bits.
Exactly. And the researchers have laid out three main things this whole process needs to achieve to be considered successful: innocence, seamlessness, and specificity.
Okay, break those down for me. Let's start with innocence. What does that even mean in the context of an AI forgetting something?
So innocence means that the AI genuinely doesn't know the erased information anymore. It's not hiding it or holding back. It's like it never knew it in the first place.
That's wild. And what about seamlessness? Does that have to do with how the AI acts after it's forgotten something?
You got it. Seamlessness is all about making sure the AI can still communicate naturally and smoothly, even when the conversation veers into territory related to what it's supposed to have forgotten.
That makes sense. You don't want it suddenly sounding like a broken record or glitching out every time it hits a gap in its knowledge base.
Right. It's like teaching the AI to gracefully dance around those mental blank spots so the user doesn't even realize anything's missing.
Okay, I'm getting that. So then what about the last one, specificity? Why is that important?
Specificity is crucial because you don't want to accidentally wipe out a whole bunch of the AI's knowledge when you're only trying to erase one specific thing, right?
Right.
We want to make sure it keeps all of its other capabilities and knowledge intact, just without access to that one specific piece of information we targeted for removal.
Okay, so that's the goal. Innocence, seamlessness, and specificity. But how are researchers actually testing this? How do they know it's working?
Well, they're putting ELM through its paces using a variety of different data sets. One of them is called the Weapons of Mass Destruction Proxy, or WMDP.
The weapons of mass destruction proxy sounds intense.
It is. It contains a lot of very sensitive information about biosecurity and cybersecurity, really high-stakes stuff.
I can see why they'd use that. What happened when they set ELM loose on the WMDP dataset? Were they able to successfully make the AI forget that sensitive information?
The results were actually pretty amazing.
Yeah.
ELM was able to essentially render the AI innocent when it came to that knowledge.
Wow. So it basically reduced the AI's knowledge in those areas to just random guesses.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I was like, it never been exposed to that information at all.
That's really impressive. But WMDP is obviously a very specific and, let's face it, a pretty heavy area of knowledge. Did they test ELM on anything else? Something a little lighter, maybe?
They did,
Yeah.
because they wanted to demonstrate that ELM could work on different types of information, not just top secret data. So they actually also used a data set based on, get this, Harry Potter.
Wait, seriously. They taught an AI about Harry Potter and then made it forget. Did they at least let it keep some good memories of Hogwarts?
Well, the goal wasn't to completely wipe out the AI's knowledge of Harry Potter.
Right, of course.
It was to see if ELM could successfully target and remove specific details. And in that, it was successful.
So whether it's dangerous weapons or fictional wizarding worlds, ELM can erase knowledge about it all. That suggests that this tech has some serious potential.
It does. But like with any powerful tool, we need to understand both its possibilities and its limitations. For example, how does ELM actually teach an AI to forget something without totally messing up all of its other abilities? It almost seems counterintuitive, right?
It's true. It's like trying to pull a single thread out of a tapestry without unraveling the whole thing. That's the really clever part about ELM, though. It doesn't just target specific knowledge for removal, it's also trained on how to handle conversations about that erased information without actually revealing it.
So it's like You're giving the AI a blind spot, but then also teaching it to navigate around that blind spot smoothly so no one even realizes it's there.
Precisely. And the researchers actually took things a step further to really put ELM through the ringer. They used what are called adversarial attacks.
Adversarial attack. Okay, that sounds intense. What does that mean in this context?
Essentially, they crafted these really sneaky prompts and questions that were designed to try and trick ELM into revealing the information it was supposed to have forgotten. Like, think of it as trying to find a weakness or a loophole in the system.
So they were deliberately trying to make ELM slip up.
Yeah.
Get it to spill the beans about the stuff it wasn't supposed to know anymore.
Exactly. They were basically playing mental chess with the AI. And the thing is, ELM held up incredibly well.
Oh, wow. So even with these really direct attacks, ELM didn't crack. That's a good sign.
It is. Even when faced with these adversarial attacks, ELM didn't budge. It didn't reveal the erased information. It stuck to its unlearning, which is a very promising sign for its potential in real-world applications.
That is reassuring, especially when you think about using this tech to handle like really sensitive information. But it also kind of makes you wonder if it can withstand these direct attacks. What about more subtle forms of influence? Could someone manipulate an AI even if it's, forgotten something?
That is a really great question, and it just highlights how important ongoing research in this field is. We need to keep testing ELM, pushing its limits to see how it holds up against different kinds of challenges, both obvious ones and the more, insidious ones.
It's like we're constantly trying to stay one step ahead,
Yeah.
anticipating potential vulnerabilities before they even crop up.
Exactly. And as we develop these increasingly sophisticated methods for AI unlearning, we have to consider the implications. Because if we can erase an AI's knowledge, how do we make sure that this capability is used responsibly?
It's a bit of a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
Because on the one hand, we have this potential to really enhance privacy and security, but then there's the flip side, the potential for misuse.
Precisely. For example, imagine if this technology was used to censor information or even to manipulate what AI systems know about certain events or topics.
Right, because who gets to decide what an AI should or shouldn't remember?
Exactly.
That's a lot of power.
It is. It really is. And it brings up even more questions, too. For instance, even if information is erased from an AI, is it truly gone forever? Or is there some way to, reverse that process and recover that erased information?
It's like when you try to delete a file from your computer, right?
Right.
You might think it's gone when you empty the recycling bin, but someone with the right skills could still potentially recover that data.
That's a great analogy. And it just underscores the importance of not just developing these erasure methods, but also creating safeguards and ethical guidelines for how they're used.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's also about the responsibility that comes with it.
100%. And that means thinking about things like transparency. Like, if a user is interacting with an AI, should they be informed that AI's knowledge has been messed with in any way?
It's like those disclaimers you sometimes see. This program has been edited for content. Except in this case, it'd be like, this AI has been edited for knowledge.
Yes, exactly. And just like those content edits can cause debate, we need to be having open and honest conversations about the implications of knowledge edits in AI. What are the potential benefits and risks? How do we ensure transparency and accountability?
It's a lot to unpack, and it feels like we're just scratching the surface of what this technology could mean for AI. It really makes you think about how we're going beyond just teaching AI to learn. Now we're talking about teaching AI to forget.
Yeah, it really is a huge shift in thinking, isn't it? And it's important to remember that this technology, it's not inherently good or bad. It's all about how we use it.
Exactly. So let's talk about some of those potential uses, because it's not all doom and gloom, right? There are some really positive applications for this.
Absolutely. Think about privacy, for example. Imagine being able to completely erase sensitive personal information from AI systems, like really protecting people's data from misuse or breaches.
That just makes sense. It's like finally being able to hit that delete button for real when it comes to your digital footprint.
Yeah.
No more data just hanging out on servers somewhere.
Exactly. And it's not just about protecting individual privacy. This technology could have huge implications for helping AI unlearn harmful biases.
Oh, right, because AI can sometimes reflect the biases that are present in the data it's trained on, which can then lead to some really unfair outcomes.
Exactly. It's like that old saying, garbage in, garbage out. If you train AI on biased data, it might make biased decisions. But with this technology, we might be able to go back and actually fix some of those biases after the fact.
That could be huge, especially now as AI is being used more and more for things like loan applications, hiring processes, even criminal justice. We need those systems to be fair.
Absolutely. We need to make sure they're unbiased. And this whole idea of making AI forget, it really forces us to examine what we even mean by knowledge.
It's true. It's like we're redefining what it means for a system to know something, especially if that knowledge can be changed or erased. It's a whole new way of thinking about things.
Yeah. It really is a whole new frontier. And the really exciting part is we're just at the very beginning. The research on ELM and other erasure methods is constantly moving forward. Who knows what's next?
It seems like every answer just leads to more and more questions.
That's what makes it so fascinating. It keeps us curious. It keeps us asking questions.
Well, on that note, I think we've given our listeners a lot to think about today. Making AI forget, it's not as easy as it sounds. It's a really complex issue with some big implications.
It really makes you think about the future we're creating with this technology.
It does. So to our listeners, as you go about your day, think about this. If you could erase one thing from an AI's knowledge, what would it be and why? The answer might surprise you. This has been The Deep Dive.